Hey, Zigzag Landia. Okay, y'all. So if y'all see all the smoke, it's not a filter. It's just me burning my incense, just cleansing the energy in the room and all the other good stuff. And yes, I do believe in that. Before, I didn't. Back when I was very closed-minded and didn't know much about anything, even though I thought I did. But when you burn your incense and stuff like that, I always refer back to the Bible because I know that it helps people understand. They talk about how certain scents smell good to the Creator. Um, so they talk about sandalwood in the Bible. They talk about frankincense. They talk about myrrh. So if people are, scared to burn incense and stuff like that, I refer back to the Bible often so it can bring them comfortability. Um, but today I'm talking about the Bible. So I want to talk about my favorite person in the Bible, and that would be King David. Why he's my favorite is because people overlooked him. He was the shepherd that looked after the sheep, but he was the black sheep in his family. Um, when a prophet came to Jesse, his father's house, he knew that a king was to be anointed in that bloodline, right? So the family didn't even regard him to be one of the sons, even though he was one of the sons. They didn't even regard him. They didn't even bring him up. It wasn't until the prophet said, none of these people, none of them are the ones that God has anointed to be king. None of them are. Now, even the father was going off of looks, off of how they think who will be the king by their stature. And people have to remember, like, when you are chosen by the Creator, the Most High, that it doesn't matter how you look. It doesn't matter if you fit the quote-unquote picture. 9 times out of 10, he's going to pick the person that doesn't fit the picture. Just saying. And they went through all of his brothers, and the prophet's like, none of these people are the one that was chosen to be king, the next king. And so finally, he's like, there's somebody else, because none of these people are the ones. Finally, the father, Jesse, was like, he kind of said in a disregarding way, talking about his son Jesse, like, it can't be him. He's a shepherd boy. He's a shepherd boy. But little do they know that shepherd boy had went through his own private battles. I believe it was a lion that he had killed, protecting the sheep. A lion. We're talking about not no cat, not no dog. We're talking about a wild beast, a lion. That was his first test that the Creator had gave him. Then, he was anointed. He was already anointed by God. He's already chosen by God. No matter how he looked, no matter how he talked, no matter how people thought that the next king would be, he was already chosen by the Creator himself, right? So, his next battle that really took him off was when him and Goliath, David and Goliath. A lot of people know the story where the current king, before David became the king, the current king was scared to fight this giant, and the people, the warriors that was around him, or should I say soldiers that was around him, were scared to fight this giant too. But here comes King David, found the rock, got his little slingshot, and popped the giant in his head. The giant fell down, and he cut the giant's head off with the sword. He didn't even have any armor on. The armor was too heavy for him. That's like, when you were chosen by God, you don't even have to wear the same armor that other people has. Like, when you're chosen by the Most High, you don't have to wear the same armor that other people have to put on. That's super heavy. You just come with your God-given gifts. So that right there put him in favor with the king, made him, realize, like, okay, this is somebody. And then the next thing that really had took him off was when the king was being tormented by a tormenting demon, right? Those things do exist. And somebody had told him about King David. Well, he was a king at that point. Somebody had told him about still gonna call him king though. Somebody had told him about King David, and they told him that he was, talented at playing the harp. So when he went to the king, he played the harp, and the tormenting demon had that tormenting spirit had left the king. So it was his gifts and also his talents, which is what had took him to like the next level of being seen in the current king's eyes. And the current king was jealous of King David because, he became a great warrior. They even came up with a song, the king had killed so many thousands, but David killed like tens of thousands or something like that. And it had made him feel salty. It had made him feel a certain type of way. And he even tried killing David, the same one that helped save everybody's butt by killing the giant. And that had helped him when he was being tormented by a spirit. Not to mention that spirit went away because of his anointing and his ability to play the harp with his anointing. Some people can play instruments, some people can do certain things, but if you don't have anointing behind it, it's not gonna hit the same. Just saying. Where was I going at with that? That was like a complete side note. But that he is by far my favorite in the Bible, by far my favorite, because people overlooked him. People looked at him as weak. People didn't view him as a king because of his outside exteriors, because of how he looked, because he didn't have the quote-unquote job, he didn't have the quote-unquote status. But when all actuality, God, the Most High, the creator of all things, is the one that had chose him, so he actually had it all. And he took down a giant with nothing, what people would have considered nothing, a rock. And by him starting this path, he became a king. He went from being a shepherd boy to a king, to a ruler, a great one at that, one of the greatest. So that is why King David is by far my absolute favorite. By far my absolute favorite in the Bible. And then I just want to let y'all really simmer on this one part. That tormenting spirit did not leave. I think was it King Solomon? What king was it? Or no, it was a King Saul. It was one of them. But that spirit did not leave until that harp was played by David, King David, that is. Vibrations, frequencies can actually affect things in the spiritual realm. And they know that. That's why they have certain music playing over and over and over, programming the mind. Programming people on how they want the frequency, the resonance to be on Earth. Just saying.